We haven't said anything about the so I'm excited because
One on the 26th.
I'm also been for 4 years and I loved it. And then he's seen me
It's Sunday. Is it Sunday? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I have a community.
I feel like Rutgers.
You're excited now. So my friends like, you're excited about it. I'm so excited that I'm gonna use all my.
They're gone. It's like a stretch. Might be again.
$20. Come on.
You like to be fun.
And well.
All right.
I mean,
I got 5 whenever you're ready. Did see.
Yep. Yeah, got a couple visits this week. My kid's Spanish teacher too. Some kids that are acting up.
These are literally our next one. I'm learning a lot,
You ready?
but girls, yeah, I kind of always been anti. Tell it.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the January 17, 2023 Marshalltown Community School District Board Meeting. Welcome to those of you joining us here in person. Welcome as well to anybody tuning in via the live stream or watching later on delayed broadcast. We'll do introductions here at the board table before we get going. Board members here this evening to my right, Zach Wall, Bonnie Lowry, and Jan McGinnis. To my left, Karina Hernandez and Sarah Faltis. Here at the center table with me, Dr. Theron Schutte, the superintendent of schools, and Randy Denham, our board secretary, and I am Sean Heitman. We've got 3 of our student school board members here this evening, Yesenia Alvarez Zamora, Abraham Madrigal Farias, and Natalie Andrade. Jackson, I assume, is in Des Moines playing basketball this evening. So, few announcements before we get going. We've got a pink sign-up sheet there on the speakers table for anybody who is here for public comment. We'd ask that you sign up there. And a reminder, if you do address the board during public comment time, you'll be limited to 5 minutes. Please understand that Iowa law prohibits the discussion of specific employees of the district or their job performance. Please also understand that in accordance with board policy, board members may not respond to comments made so that we can comply with open meeting laws. With those items out of the way, would you all please join me in reading the mission statement of the Marshalltown School District? We develop learners who have the knowledge, skills, and positive mindset to successfully pursue a meaningful future through personalized learning experiences. And please stand as you're able and join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
Yes, we have 2 changes, 2.02 in personnel. We've added the hiring of Alan Mann as the interim head baseball coach for Marshalltown High School for the summer of 2023. And then 2.03, we have a warehouse lease agreement. It's the same warehouse that we've been using for years on Lincoln Way, an updated lease agreement there.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Lowry, Faltus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. Adam?
Good evening. So for recognition tonight, we wanted to introduce our Bobcat All-State Music students for this year. We had hoped to get them in front of you all earlier, sooner after the announcement. Our students are obviously very, very busy, many of them, and high achievers. So we're very happy to recognize them tonight. Ethan Santana and Avery Bolark are here. If you all want to come on up. Oh, we couldn't. Oh, shoot. Okay. Oh, unfortunately, Ethan Santana was not able to make it tonight, but we do have Avery and we're very happy to have her here. And we'd like to congratulate her. So Avery, could you introduce?
Yeah, hi, my name is Avery Bowler and I'm a senior at Marshalltown High School. About the all-state process. The all-state process starts about like the late summer where I attended a camp at Wartburg College. And we basically, that's when I got introduced to the music, learned our parts, pretty much learned everything in that process. And then throughout the school year by practicing with Miss Osi and other students at my school participating in all-state, we worked on practicing the music, and then auditions were, is it October? October, and the music cuts get released at 5 a.m. Day of auditions. So, because it's just very small excerpts of the pieces of music. And so then we have the time to prepare that. I had a partner, Meredith Codis, and so we had that very short amount of time to work on those cuts together. And then we went into the audition. And then we both got recalls. So we had to go audition again. And then that's when I found out that I made it in. Thank you.
Congratulations.
But Amy, do you want to say a few words, or Brett about your student also?
Before I do that, I'd like to present Avery with her official all-state certificate from the Iowa High School Music Association. We usually hang on to it until we have a really good time to hand those out. The all-state process is a dueling process. It's hard. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of time. It's a lot of individual participation for these students to go through that process. What Avery did not mention, she did have a partner in the first round of the auditions, but when they go to the second round, when they are recalled, they're in there all by themselves. And it is common practice, directors are not seen so that there is no favoritism shown. So the students go in and they audition a cappella. They're given the starting pitches at whatever the cut is, which is never the very beginning of the piece, which is the normal starting spot. Here's your pitches, go, and they have to start themselves, direct themselves, and sing when they do those cuts. They stop at the stopping point and then they immediately turn to the next selection and go. So it really is a challenging process. I'm extremely proud of Avery and Ethan, and I'll let Mr. Umphin talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, the band experience is very similar. They have etudes and scales that they have to perform, 13 scales to memorize. They have the audition process October 22nd. And they do a little excerpt of a solo that they perform. And the audition day themselves, the wind players and percussionists, they have chair placements. Ethan is a band student, plays oboe, but he got into the orchestra, which is the top ensemble of the two for wind players to get into. And for chair placements, he got second chair, correct? So a big accomplishment for him and his family and the school and the band program. We're very proud of him, and he does a lot of hard work on his own, and he's a good motivator for everyone else in the band to be like Ethan. They nickname him All-State. Sometimes he's not Ethan, he's just All-State.
I think for anyone you've had to be under a rock to have not heard Avery sing over the course of the last 4 years, because there's so many different places that I've seen her, and I don't think it's any surprise to any of us that you would get the highest honor there. So congratulations, and it'll seem weird next year when she's not here to sing for us.
It will be. It will be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations. Okay, I will now open the public hearing regarding approval of the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost for the Marshalltown Community School District High School Video Scoreboard Project. Were there any written comments received, Randy?
There were not.
There's no one here to address that. I will close the public hearing regarding approval of the plan, specifications, form of contract, and estimated total cost for the Marshalltown Community School District High School Video Scoreboard Project. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We've got minutes from the December 19 regular board meeting. Dr. Ryan, you're back. Anything of note in personnel? Okay.
We might want Mr. Isgrig to
Mr.
speak
Isgrig.
about the softball and the baseball, if you want to come up and say a few words. Not that there's been any interest in the community as to who will be filling these roles or anything.
Yeah, there's been plenty of interest. So, yeah, so Jason Bowers will be our head softball coach. He was formerly an assistant with East Marshall, and we're really happy to have him. We had a nice committee and interviewed him, and we're really excited to have him. Met with the kids, and they're eager to really get started and get off on the right foot this year. And we're happy to announce Alan Mann as our head baseball coach this summer. Baseball's been a very tough one to fill since I've been here. So I don't know how much you want me to speak on the rest of it, but go ahead.
Alan's going to be considered interim head baseball coach because his commitments for the year bridging our hopeful hiring of a full-time teacher coach,
Right.
Which hopefully we'll bring forward in the first February meeting.
Right. So, yeah, the ideal candidate there, we're really looking for someone to be a teacher and a coach in the district. So, really excited, and I slept well last night, so it was nice.
Thanks.
Alan will do a great job. So will Coach Bowers. So thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Looking then at interagency agreements and contracts, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Instructional Materials Center with the Iowa Department of the Blind to provide visually impaired students with Braille materials. We have a renewal agreement with SMS Tech Solutions for Go Guardian. We have a lawn service renewal with True Green, an employer acceptance agreement for the TPRA program Teacher Aid 1, and a commercial lease agreement with 1103 West Lincoln Way LLC. In open enrollments, we have 9 recommended to approve for the current school year and 3 to recommend denials for the current school year. Randy, anything to note in bills or in the financial report?
No.
We've got 3 early graduates. We've got a research project from Natalie Elliott to improve social emotional competencies of students. And we had a donation of really 40 pallets. Okay.
I think it's 44, actually. 44 pallets of
44 pallets of Lysol wipes from Frontline Impact for district-wide use. That is a lot of Lysol wipes. Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What was that, Todd?
Total wipes.
Wow. Okay. Questions, comments about anything in the consent agenda?
I would just say, relative to the project that the board is being asked to approve. Our hopes would be at the conclusion of those projects that our employees would come back with the results of their study and findings. So we'll make sure Shauna has them do that one at an appropriate time.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Wall, Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0. There's nobody on the pink sheet, is there?
There is not.
Okay. Then Ann and the Water Boys, come on up.
Want a microphone? I'm just here for emotional support for them. Go Logan.
Hello,
Hello.
we're the Water Boys. And our team is made up of 5 7th graders. Garrett Teedy, Logan Bailey, Oliver Young, Aiden Holmgren, and James Marquez. There's also 3 8th graders that are Jaden Schwartz, Gavin Freiberg, and Aiden Buzel.
For our first Lego League, there are 3 main parts. There's the core values, our robot project, and our innovative project. And for our innovative project, the theme this year was to create a renewable and efficient source of energy.
When we researched this project, we looked at all different types of energy, including solar and wind energy. But we decided on hydroelectric energy for our project because it's the most reliable and it makes a lot of energy. So when we researched it, the main source that we used was a tour that we had at the Lake Red Rock Hydroelectric Dam. He talked about small turbines they put in rivers called river runners that make electricity. And we thought we would use that idea, but smaller in pipes that, like in a house. We put small turbines in pipes in a house to make electricity.
You wanna hold those? So for our first iteration, we wanted to just create a generator that could make energy using water. And Aiden's bringing out the first iteration here. You can set that on the table. So this was our first iteration that we used and it worked, but we wanted to create something more efficient and smaller for it. So then we made this smaller water wheel, which is obviously smaller and creates about double the amount of electricity. You can talk.
We made an even smaller one after that to put in a PVC elbow with a tiny little turbine.
We realized, however, with this turbine that we were gonna need to be able to 3D print our own and fabricate it on our own instead of buying the parts. So until we do that, we are using a generator we found on Amazon, but we are planning to build our own.
So we had a lot of improving to do before we go to state. So we wanted our robot game to be more efficient and faster. We also wanted to improve our generator for the house. And we were going to interview In Energy, which is a company that lit up an entire town using this method, and Garland Construction.
With this project, we also won the first Lego League first place in the first Lego League competition, regional competition.
And that qualified you to you for state, right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Do you have any questions?
In a typical house, how much energy can you expect to generate using these tiny little turbines? Turbines.
It depends on how many turbines we have and how big the turbines are. One like that can produce like 12 volts of energy, but it really just depends on how many you have and how big they are. Any other questions?
When is the state competition?
January 27th, am I right? 28th.
Oh, so just less than 2 weeks away.
Mhm.
Okay.
So are you going to try to fabricate your smallest turbine before you go to state that fits in your PVC elbow?
We're going to try to, but we are at least going to work on our robot games and speed or improve our project and describe our project better to the judges.
Any other questions from anybody?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations
Cool.
again, guys.
Interesting
Good
concept.
luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk again about Marshalltown Learning Academy, the non-conventional high school program kind of within the district. Thought I would just review staffing. It's changed just a little bit from last year on that second slide. So we typically run right at about 100 students. We have 4.0 core teachers, 2 special ed teachers, an electives teacher, a sliver of ELL, some school counseling time, an IJEG specialist, and a school resource specialist. So our 2021 to 2024 building professional development focus has been authentic learning environments, and I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So our attendance center plan, which you'll hear about later in the year, has measurable outcomes related to these big rocks of things that we're trying to do to improve student outcomes and student achievement at MLA. Our outcomes are linked to core instruction, creating more authentic learning experiences, which was just, again, part of our PLC focus time just here about an hour or two ago. Encouraging dual credit and transition planning for all of our students, not just our special education students, but transition planning for all of our students. And most kids who come to MLA, not all, but most come with a number of barriers to learning. Most come with lots of prior attendance struggles, at least as represented by the data. So we use a lot of social emotional learning groups and interventions to try to mitigate those barriers and get kids to graduate with a plan. So we'll talk a little bit about authentic learning and our authentic learning initiative that we have. The term authentic learning refers to a wide variety of educational and instructional techniques focused on connecting students to what's taught in the real world, to real world problems, issues, and applications. So the general idea behind that is that students are more likely to be interested and better prepared to succeed in college, careers, and adulthood if what they're learning mirrors real life, equips them with practical and useful skills, and addresses topics that are relevant to their lives both in and out of school. That includes like the work-based learning initiative and some of the project-based learning and things that are going on at MLA. So kind of as a part of that project-based learning that I just mentioned, we do teach the Scrum framework to our students, which is used in some business and industry applications. It is an agile mindset for project management. So you can kind of follow the workflow there. In the vision, the user story defines the product or the outcome and its purpose. You then create an ordered list of tasks, and that becomes sort of your product backlog. And then you create a Scrum board, which is located on the next slide. That'll be the next slide. The sprint backlog then helps kids understand what's on their to-do list, what's been done, and what's pending and what's in progress. And we try to teach them to push a sprint in 1 to 4 weeks, depending on the size of the project. And then we produce the deliverable, or what we're supposed to do. And then we review, and then we go into what we call retrospective, which is sort of that structured reflection piece of how did it go? What did we do? What can we do better? What kind of a teammate was I? Was I an asset to the team? Was I a liability to the team? And then they get teacher input on that as well as they move through that. So a typical Scrum board is just shown on the next slide. It just shows like their backlog, and we use sticky notes. If you were on the tour, you might have seen a couple of Scrum boards up in the science room. I saw a couple in there today. So our to-dos are in progress and dones, and as people move, they move things to the right and then knock things off the backlog. So it's just a way of, reminds me a little bit of some of the professional learning we did for administrators earlier this year, where we had to identify our top 3 priorities of things we wanted to get done. So we're kind of working that same kind of a formula here with kids. What's in your backlog? What do you need to do? What do you have going, and what needs to be done? And we use this for graduation planning as well as for project management. So mentioned work-based learning before. Work-based learning is not just going out and getting a job. It's really that full continuum of experiences, and this graphic from the state, I think, represents that well. So we have to introduce kids to careers, have them investigate careers, take some classes, do some preparation, which includes their core work and their non-core work, and then develop those career skills. But ultimately, we want them to leave us where they are either pursuing more education or pursuing a job with an in-demand job with a living wage. I talked about this last year in my presentation. Over 50% of the available jobs in Iowa are what we call middle skill jobs. Middle skill jobs are jobs that requires education beyond the typical high school diploma, but less than a 4-year degree. But only 32% of Iowa's workforce today is credentialed like that. So we are hoping to help our kids push into that gap of employability and where there's opportunities for growth. Work-based learning happening at MLA right now. I wanted to publicly acknowledge these businesses who are hosting students right now on either paid or unpaid experiences. These are ones that the school reached out to the business to match a student to what we're trying to do. And those 5 businesses have been awesome. And that's Arnold's Motor Supply, Jensen Ford, Hy-Vee, Goodwill, and Pizza Ranch. So super excited to have them. That list does not include all of the independent work-based learning opportunities that our students have, where they go get a job and then we send an evaluation form, and then kids get credit. And I counted about 30 additional businesses where kids have gone out and partnered on their own. So more than half of our students already this year have earned the work-based learning credentials. So that's one of our dashboard indicators with Bobcat Ready. So happy to see that. Some of you that were on the tour saw this the other day. I think the lettuce is going away tomorrow, it sounds like, but we have a couple, well, 3 actually, vertical hydroponic farming grow stations that we are getting ready to do some project-based learning with. There are 11 modules tied to these that are all aligned to the next generation science standards. So the benefits of growing food like this, zero what they call food miles. So we're not transporting the food. Growing food like this takes 98% less water than traditional agriculture and 98% land than less traditional agriculture. This thing sets in an area of about 15 square feet. So pretty small. And the job outlook for people who are in like the agronomy, farm manager, urban farmer area is very good. State of Iowa expects that this area is to grow faster than the average occupations over the next 10 years. Additionally, MCC has a last dollar scholar opportunity that we can link kids to. They have a career certificate in entrepreneurial and diversified horticulture, which students can then access and then earn an additional credential, which will allow them to go out and do this kind of work. So we are investigating whether we can call our food organic or not. And that's actually one of the problems that the students are going to go ahead and lead. It's kind of complicated. I tried to look it up myself and I just don't have time to figure it out. So I'm passing that on to somebody else to try to get that figured out. So that is actually a head of lettuce, which is now in about day 40, I guess. All the plugs there that you see are places where plants could grow. And the black rubber stopper then prevents the water from streaming out. So the water sits in a tank below, it is pumped out and it trickles down over those various things. There's also, it's really hard to see, my shot wasn't great. There's also a little basil plant up in the far upper left corner, but it kind of got crowded out by the lettuce. But so we're going to move that basil plant and do that. So we like how this aligns to the next gen science standards, and we have 11 modules that kids do. This fits as a nice enhancement to our biology courses and biology curriculum, and fits into a career growth area of urban agriculture and sustainable ag. So wanted to recognize, as we talk about our dual credit work, this is one of our students, Naomi Martinez. She will be, when they publish it here, on the MCC Fall Dean's List for 2022. She's been hanging around our building here over break, cleaning up a couple of other high school classes, and then she's going to start in earnest back at MCC. She was the spring 2022 MCC Outstanding Student in the area of sociology. And that includes high school and adult learners. So super proud of her. She's done an amazing job. So as we talked about before, some MLA students do go to four-year colleges, but more do not. We want all students to graduate with a plan. So it's one of the reasons for the emphasis on the graduating with a plan and transition and career coaching for our students. And why I'm so excited about the increase in work-based learning that's been happening. If you could advance one more slide, please. Linked there are the last dollar scholarship programs in Iowa. So I just had a conversation with a young man about 3 o'clock today and showed him this link. He thinks he wants to go into the trades, but he's not sure what he wants to do. Paying for school for him is going to be a struggle. So we talked about last dollar scholarship programs. And though that is an initiative of the governor, that after you get your institutional scholarships and your financial aid, whatever is left then is gapped in by another state fund. So students can essentially get those 2 years of community college for free, as long as they're in one of those high demand job areas. So it's kind of a partnership between workforce development and the governor's office and things, but areas that qualify for that. I mentioned the entrepreneurial and diversified ag, advanced manufacturing technology, industrial maintenance, the gas and power line utility tech programs, computer network management, business administration qualified this year as a program, I believe, for one of the first times. So really a lot of flexibility for kids who may want to go And yeah, thanks for pulling that link up. That talks about, and you can filter for your particular community college district, and it tells you whether you're getting an AA, a certificate, or a CTE diploma, or however it goes. Lastly, I wanted to outline some of the social emotional supports we have going in the building for students. We do have the building-wide emphasis on collaborative problem solving, which is a Think Kids initiative, which has been supported heavily by district office. It's been good for kids and good for staff. We do a lot of goal setting, some of the agile scrum stuff, self-management and self-awareness things that we embed into the system. We have a yoga group that meets every day. And we have what we call small SEL groups. You can see those listed there. I myself, our AEA person, sometimes a gen ed and a special ed teacher, and our school resource specialists do meet on Wednesdays to do student problem solving, make referrals, contact parents, things like that. We have a Satusi education group as needed, and we do partner with the therapeutic classrooms to access the therapist that's on site, which has been huge. A massive plus for our program and for our kids. So. Okay, any questions?
Abraham, is there anything that Mr. Gosling forgot to mention?
This isn't a question, it's just a comment. I always appreciate when you put the appendix on there at the end of that with all that other useful information in there, so.
Yeah, some of the stuff we're just studying and reading as a staff, and to get folks to move forward. They want research and they want, other information. And this is a slide I showed last year when there were a number of new board members, but there are no new board members this year. So I slid it down. So.
I having experienced a number of different alternative high school programs throughout the years in different districts and stuff, I don't think people realize the quality of the alternative experience that's provided here at Marshtown with, the combination of online learning with direct teacher facilitation. And then I think where the real power comes is through the authentic learning through high quality project-based learning or problem-based learning that the students get to experience. And, I think all of that, I know that Mr. Gosling works really hard with the administration of both the high school and middle school to make sure that this model is a good fit up front for the students. And I think that it's particularly been helpful since we've been allowing younger students to make that choice versus fall into the program, by having been unsuccessful at the high school as well. So we got to see a little bit of that, when we toured last week, which was nice. I think it's worked out really well to have the tours be in conjunction with the presentations for that reason.
Did you say half of your kids have done or are doing some sort of work-based?
Yeah, probably over half.
Yeah.
Incorporate work and jobs because it's going to start getting out there. And now I'm have to use those connections. So I think it's a really good thing that we're doing that. I think the school can not only help us get jobs, but also help us get good jobs that allow us to balance school and work and kind of probably build and be ready when we graduate.
Definitely builds up your resume there. I do have questions. So for your Wednesday student problem solving meetings, you said it was a small staff team. Like what type of problems is it also like problems as far as providing resources or moving things around for them? But do you also look at opportunities for, or is it always just problems?
Yeah, so a lot of the opportunity planning really it may result from the identification of a problem.
Okay.
You know, in the sense that, I guess a typical problem that we would try to take on is, hey, we aren't seeing this student often enough.
So attendance.
This kid's disengaged. This kid's, last week, hey, this kid got kicked out of the house. You know, those kinds of things that we then try to, you know, so some of them are academic and some of them are the kind of eliminating those barriers. So, you know, trying to get kids into YSS housing assistance and then hoping there's an opening.
Right.
You know, it's the lack of beds for things that happen in the state remains a pretty critical problem. You know, if somebody's suffering from a substance abuse problem, they don't need a bed 60 days from now. They need one tomorrow, you know. And so those kinds of barriers and then try to find a way to maintain people until they can get the help they need.
And I was sorry to miss your tour last week, but you do know that yours is my favorite building to go into. I mentioned that before.
Thank you.
It's just amazing what's happening there.
Great.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay, so you might remember I've talked about the Science Bound program with you all before. And the Science Bound program is a scholarship program that facilitates minority students going in to pursue higher education. But more than that, it does a lot to academically enrich so many students that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to pursue higher education. And because many students like myself are very appreciative of the program, I would like you all to listen to Dr. Campbell and Ms. Jocelyn speak about the program who have graciously accepted our invitation to be here today.
Thank you. Honestly, I think we wanted to thank Yesenia and you as the board and Dr. Schutte, just having us here. I know that we get to come out to Marshalltown often, but we're generally at the high school, middle school, and so it's really exciting to be able to see and hear more about what's going on in Marshalltown schools. And a little shout out that Ms. Jose wanted to make sure we shared, but Ethan is one of our Science Bound scholars that was featured earlier today, and his sister Josie is at Iowa State now pursuing. So we have legacy families within Marshalltown. Sorry, too close? Or no, not close enough. So we get really excited when we hear about all of the good things that's happening here. So I do have a PowerPoint. It's a very large slide set, and really, I just wanted to highlight pictures. And as Yesenia was talking, I mean, our students and scholars are the ones that really talk about and show the program best, but hopefully you can get a little idea as we kind of travel along here. So if you want to, so the goal of Science Bound, as she said, is to really increase the number of ethnically and racially minoritized Iowa youth who pursue careers in STEM, so agriculture included, and also education, so teachers. And we do this through Science Bound, and it's a pre-college through college scholarship program. We really work to equip them academically, do career exploration, investigate all different types of STEM and education careers, and they get to come to campus and have faculty like hosting experiences for them at least 3 times a year throughout the 5 years that they're with us. We do college preparation. We want to make sure that our students and scholars, but also their families, are equipped for what that means to go to college if that's their next choice and stop along the way. And that last bullet, just to highlight, is really key to the successes of family partnership and engagement. We recognize that our families know their scholars and students best. And so wanting to ensure that they have the resources from us, from the schools, from the community, to be able to support and champion on their student along the way. So this is just kind of a quick timeline of our growth. And so that first slide, I think it said 32 years, and we actually piloted before that. So in 1988, wow, was the pilot for Science Bound. And we've just been able to grow and maintain. Iowa State in 1990 made a commitment to anybody that graduated with a Science Bound program, they would support and pay a full tuition scholarship. And that was something that the National Science Foundation had required at the time. And Science Bound in Iowa State has honored that commitment ever since. And so you'll see on there at 2006 is when the partnership here in Marshalltown began. And so we've been going strong here since that point. And it actually started with a NASA grant. And from there, we've had corporate partnerships and other federal money to support and college money to support the program. So I think I kind of summed this up, but really we just want to build those strong, positive, academically influential relationships with students and families. And so we say the 3 E's: equip academically, expose them to STEM experiences, and empower them with interpersonal skills so that they have the tools they need to be successful as they are post-high school graduation. So we start our relationship with the family and the student as a contract. And so between Iowa State, Science Bound, and also the family and student. And so we ask 12 and 13-year-olds to commit to 5 years of working with us. And that is a big feat at that point. They have to maintain a 3.0 GPA throughout high school, 75% participation. So in any activities that could be our weekly meetings after school or things that we do on campus or maybe over the summer. We require them to extend their learning and do 40 hours of STEM programming throughout the summer. So really, we're keeping them really engaged. We have teachers within the middle school and high school that work specifically with the program and get paid by Science Bound to support those students as they go through. And in the end, they earn the full tuition scholarship if they choose to come to Iowa State and study in a STEM field or education. So this one we can go quickly, but just we have middle school curriculum. They meet about every other week with their teachers in the schools, but then also get to come to campus. We do an environmental science and goal setting retreat, which is my favorite event. It's at the Boone Y Camp. And so we actually stay overnight with all of our 8th graders. But along the way, we have different benchmarks that they have to complete to be able to continue and cross over into the high school program where they become scholars. So in the high school program, it continues, it gets a little bit more rigorous in that they're meeting every week with their Science Bound teachers. We again bring them to campus. There's lots of different activities that we do, including those celebration times. And that's what you see with senior OJs and signing day. So that's coming up here in the spring that we're really excited to be able to celebrate with them, their accomplishments. I spoke a little bit about partners with families, so we can probably click past, but all throughout the year, we do have different programming that the families are invited to so that they stay engaged. Also, we work with 58 teachers across the 4 school districts that we're in. And so it's really important that they have time to come together to build themselves professionally, but also engage with each other to see what's happening in any of the school buildings that we're in. And so just demographic wise, we like to put this up here for the 2022-2023 school district. We have 464 middle school and high school students and scholars that are with us. And so you can see the demographic information that plays out. The one that I most get common questions about is under college. So about 75% of our students and scholars are first generation, but then about 20% fall into this 1.5. And so what that would be is maybe a family member went back to college later in life. And so it wasn't the maybe traditional route, but want to recognize that there's other types of family situations that are going on there. So our Marshalltown program this year, you can see our numbers. So we have 15 young students in 8th grade that are ready to do their science fair projects, which actually happens on February 3rd, hosted by Emerson. Our high school program, then you kind of see the numbers there. Science Bound teachers, we have 2 teachers that are in the middle school and 4 teachers that support the high school program. And I think we can click past. So these are our college scholars this year. I believe that we had 34. So you can keep going. It's okay. Thank you. I think there's about 34 on campus from Marshalltown. And you see that 96.8 is something that we're really proud of. For this past class of graduates, 96.8% of them went directly into college after high school. And 46 of those students across our three school districts, one of them doesn't have seniors yet, but have come to Iowa State to pursue degrees. So super excited about that. And just seeing we're in all of the undergraduate colleges. So there's about 170 science-bound graduates on scholarship at Iowa State currently. I hope I didn't go too fast. I could talk about this for lots of time. But here's our staffing contact. We currently have a couple of vacant positions, so that's why there's little holes, but just without the staff and their passion for being able to support students and our teachers that are here in Marshalltown, but across all 23 different schools that we're in, they really make the program and our scholars and families ensure that it continues and it survives and thrives, and so do they. I think that's pretty much it. There may be more slides, but I think those ones are not necessary. So do you have questions for us?
Well, just a comment, Natalie had mentioned the importance of, positioning kids for future success. And I think most of us know that in some way, shape, or form, a post-secondary credential and or degree is necessary for that. And so Marshalltown is blessed to have available to it. Number one, we offer unlimited dual credit opportunities, particularly through Marshalltown Community College at the high school for students that are ready and willing, to take that step, most, if not all of which are transferable to Iowa State. A few years ago, JBS provided a wonderful gift with scholarships to all of their employees, kids, equivalent to a two-year degree at a community college. We have the Morristown Educational Partnership, which is directly for first generation college going students. And then we have the science-bound opportunities. I mean, there's just a plethora of ways for that financial barrier, to be hopefully lessened and or eliminated for our kids. And so, the challenge is getting the kids positioned to be able to handle that work and to have a goal, to have a passion, to have a direction that they want to go. So I greatly appreciate you coming once again and sharing about the program. We've had some changeover of board members since the last time you were here, and I'm sure it'd probably be okay if any of them had the time to stop by when the science fair is happening, probably on February 3rd.
Yes,
So.
definitely. We can share that out. And we also have our banquet. It's May 6th. And this year we're doing an all district banquet on campus at Iowa State. So you're definitely welcome and should receive save the dates here in the coming weeks. We are creating. So
How are like eighth grade students identified?
yep. So we do this, it's an application process, but even first, before that, the teachers are within the buildings, talking to students, seeing students. I think they share about the science-bound program. But being in Marshalltown for so long, I will say that we have lots and lots of families that are coming to us, or maybe kids going to their teachers, or families going to teachers within the building saying that they want to be a part of it. And so actually Marshalltown has been probably our top producer of applicants. We can take 16 at this current point just because of funding limitations. But I think that we had maybe 40 some applications for those 16 spots.
Oh, wow.
So it's really great to see that. And I know that it's hard because we can't pick everybody and we have legacies and we want to keep that family, like keep supporting them. But yeah, I would say we also want to ensure that it looks like the demographics of the district as much as possible. So each school unit is a little bit different. So our Des Moines schools are going to look different than what our Marshalltown schools look like. And we have had just recently, well, past couple of years, recognizing that the Burmese refugee population is increasing here. We had one of our board members ask and kind of bring this to us. And so that was something that we've been actively trying to increase the number of Burmese refugees that are seeing the opportunity and hopefully taking it up.
So are the science-bound teachers on our staff
Or are they coming to visit once a week?
Yeah, so they are on your staff and we have a contract with Marshalltown Schools to be able to pay them an hourly rate, then just like, I think similar to maybe an athletic coach or someone that's doing after-school activities that are supported by the district. So that's something then Science Bound is able to pay Marshalltown to be able to pay the teachers to do.
Great. And so all of the once a week meetings with the science bound teachers then is after school.
Yes, after school, yep.
Okay. Thanks.
And nights and weekends.
Nights and weekends, yep. On campus and off. Got it. That's good.
Yesenia, anything you want to add? Yeah.
I'd like to highlight to anyone that's listening in at home or on the board that throughout my experience in science, I've come to realize that their investment in the student is a lot greater than just even the full tuition scholarship. Talking with currently like college scholars, they talk about like a lot of support they receive from science funding when they're in college. And the daycares are learning about how they should prepare their high school schedules and high school resumes, life skills, social overall. We're very thankful to them. So
I also would like to say that I appreciate the fact that you take time with parents and you bring parents along also to help them understand what their child is doing, really preparing themselves for that post-secondary jump and how important it is for them. So thank you very much for really making that a huge component of the programming.
Huge opportunity.
Anything else from anybody? Well, thank you very much for coming over.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hi, Jackie.
Happy New Year, everybody. Happy second semester. Tonight I come to you with a few changes. I count 11 to our course manual for the upcoming school year. Obviously, on the first page, we have to edit the school year. And if you had an opportunity to get to the link, we have been updating our online course guide as well. Registration starts for students here, I believe, next week sometime. We will have to update all of we took out page numbers because that got to be rather cumbersome. So when this document goes live, it actually has links to all of these little pieces that are listed in that table of contents. So you will see that agriculture has some new classes to be offered as well as business. We have been collaborating with Marshalltown Community College. So on page 6, you will see that nurses aid will be coming back to the high school.
Nice.
So we're pretty excited that an MHS grad will be coming to teach that class in the mornings. So we have a little bit of work to get ready with all of the equipment for that class, but we're pretty excited and the kids are happy to hear that as well. You also notice in that course, that table of contents that we did take French out. Jan asked about that last year. So we have taken it out for this year because not too many students took advantage of Edmentum, which was available to them, but at any time they can take any language that they would like to engage in through Edmentum, just without that first hand teacher help when they take a course. Spanish is pretty busy. And then Amy, I'm going to jump to page 16. You approved this change earlier this year, but I just want you to notice that it does say that students will be notified annually of the designated withdrawal date for their college courses so that they don't have any penalties on their transcripts if they end up failing the course. Also on page 26, the 4-year plan, it hasn't changed. The graduation requirements remain the same, but we just need to change the date of the classes who will be joining us beginning next year. And then on page 28 in the ag section, you will see the 2 courses that are actually 3 courses that are being added or suggested by the ag teacher. You approved earlier this year, Future Farmers of America or FFA. And in order for students to be members of FFA, they have to take at least 1 ag course each year. It doesn't have to be a whole year course, it can be a semester course. There are currently 11 members of FFA in the short amount of time that from your approving it to her getting started. So it's pretty exciting to see what the kind of work that they're putting in, because that's a rigorous club to belong to. Then on page 41 is the explanation of the two business courses, Fundamentals of Cybersecurity and Game Design in Unity. There are no prerequisites in terms of programming for students to participate in either one of those courses. So we're excited to see new electives for our freshmen. Sometimes it's hard for them to get into some things. And then if you'll flip to page 66, there were a couple courses that the counselors did ask me to take back out. It's not that the students can't take into the health occupations or medical terminology. Those are available through MCC. They just will not be offered at the high school, which is why we will take them back out of the catalog because we only want to feature courses that are available at the high school. On page 81, we did add successful completion of Algebra 2 into the Intro to Stats, which is a concurrent course. I believe it was more rigorous and kids who have successfully completed Algebra 2 have been very successful in Intro to Stats. So we want to open it for a greater opportunity. Then a really fun title class is on page 105 in the specialized courses into career development. It's called Let's Make Money. It's a second year entrepreneurship course for students. We have the one at the high school in entrepreneurship, which is an introduction to entrepreneurship. This one is more work-based learning experience, and we want to have it offered up at the Orpheum so that students have direct access to businesses up on Main Street and potentially engaged in projects with those business owners. Otherwise, they can engage in their own ideas that they've learned from Entrepreneurship 1, or they can engage with the clearinghouse that's available through the state on work-based learning. So lots of ways for students to gain experiences that prepare them for the world of work. And then my final change here is, again, that deletion of French. Sorry, I forgot to cross it out on page 119, where we remove French from from this entire book. And before I ask for your approval, you will see in a future consent item, I did get a late ad. It didn't make it in this book, so I'll give you that information in the future. Ms. Harmson from the tech department is going to engage our students in some opportunities with computer solutions and applications and teach that course up at the high school, or excuse me, up at the Orpheum as well, probably opposite the days that Ms. Weatherly is up there with Let's Make Money. So kids have an opportunity to be engaged in both courses. I'll just quick read you the description that Amy has for the course. This course will introduce students to basic foundational knowledge in hardware, software, networking, and audiovisual equipment. Students will learn concepts as well as apply the concepts in real-time situations. Students will learn how to install, configure, and troubleshoot Chromebook screens and keys, configure local addressing and internet connections to support athletic systems that utilize local addressing, troubleshoot basic room audiovisual systems, set up and operate district hardware and software that includes producing and uploading videos that are compatible in aspect ratio, format, and quality to district systems in order to use them to their fullest potential. Sounds pretty exciting for some kids who are really interested in technology. So I'll provide the full description and course description in a future agenda for a board meeting. So my request is that we approve the 2023-24 course guide.
Are there any questions?
So are you saying we're having a coffee shop at Orpheum or?
We're shooting for it. We just need somebody to own that. It's hard for a teacher to be in ownership of that one. They've got to teach back at the high school. So I've been working with Dr. Julian trying to figure out how we get that. We have students who and teachers who are ready to take students there for work-based learning, but little changes in some of the tweaking the schedule and things like that to make sure students can be there, but absolutely.
All right, excited.
Yes, Natalie. these courses, sweetie, or which ones? Oh, these are the ones that are offered during regular school day. So because we want those to be equitable for everybody to access them. Absolutely.
Any other questions, comments?
So before you started at MHS, we had an instructor from MCC who would come to the building 2 periods, or every day, 2 periods. And we probably had 15 to 17 girls in each class and boys. And then that instructor retired and they really struggled to find somebody. So their director came for a little while, but she was only able to come 1 period a day. So we started to see the enrollment decrease, and then she moved on and they've transitioned over at MCC, and then COVID came and it was hard to get students into the nursing homes and facilities for their training. So MCC decided to keep their class there. And then we reached out to them early this year to ask about the possibility of searching for an instructor during the year to be ready for the fall of 2023. And they came out, and it is Megan Mann, is her name. She's very familiar with Marshalltown, is very excited, young, and wants to get a lot of kids engaged in the nursing program. So we have a big task of getting some medical equipment ready. One of them is 2 medical beds, which I didn't know about when the hospital was closing. But someone gave me a lead, so we have to get all of this equipment together and get a room identified and get those put in the room, and then make sure that the room can be used the rest of the day while those beds are kind of like tucked away. So absolutely, we are shooting for it. And the students, this year, students have started to hear about it. They've heard about Let's Make Money, and they've heard about the nursing program. So yes, they're very excited about it. Yeah, you bet.
Anything else? If not, is there a motion to approve the 23-24 MHS course guide as presented?
So, second.
Wall, McGinnis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, it's your turn.
Okay, this is our student board presentation for January 17, 2023. As you might have remembered before, the NHS was going to hold a toy drive. They successfully collected more than 50 toys, and the students delivered those toys to the Salvation Army, and each toy got to go to an underprivileged child in our community. Okay, so I believe December 21st was the day of the poetry aloud competition at Marshalltown High School. This was a very unique competition to me because it involved a lot of pre-20th century poetry, which I'm not too familiar with at this point, but it was something very exciting to see unfold. The students learned, the basic memorization and recitation, how to put like their true understanding and convey it through how they presented their poem. There were judges throughout the community with backgrounds in speech and poem recitation that were the ones who awarded the 3 students presented on the right. The first and second place was a 1-point difference. So you can see how good and dedicated these students were. From left to right, there's Landon Stanley, second place, Isaiah Wilder in first place, and Danielle Cerniski in third place.
You might remember Landon last year was the state champion, and
It was very heated for sure. Okay, so as you heard before from Mrs. Jackson in the XLP program, the Water Boys won their champion award for their project on innovation in robot design and performance. The Lenahan XLP program also had a team called the Sideways Helicopters. And just looking deeper into these types of competitions, the children that are doing these competitions now are likely the ones that will be participating in the PLTW engineering computer courses and will be doing robotics in the future. So we can see how activities such as these set them up for their future.
So a little bit about the seal by literacy. It is open to all MHS students who are proficient in 2 languages. And it kind of highlights the importance of language diversity in a workplace and also the importance of having that as a skill. It is a computer-based test and it is free for all students. It incorporates 4 sections: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And it's easy to sign up through. You just go to Google Form. There are ways to prepare like ENR sessions and taking the practice test. And it's just a lot of support from the world language teachers helping you through every step of the way.
Something I'd like to add to that. Recently, I found out through applying through Iowa State that they're now taking the seal of biliteracy in replacement of their 4-year requirement of a foreign language. So this is a good opportunity for students that already know what they're doing to kind of get past that requirement.
Yeah, thank you for adding on, Yesenia. And before we move on, this is just a picture of the last years, people who got the seal, and obviously really proud of them. And thank you for making this an opportunity. So I wanted to share a little bit about my club and a collaboration between ISU. So last year, my club made a connection or was reached out to by Dr. Suarez, a professor at Iowa State University. And she wanted our club to make Latino memoirs, and with the purpose after COVID, because during COVID, students were having a hard time in class to engage and participate. So the program was meant to kind of help students break out of the shell. The important dates are listed below, and this is where we'll be tutored and kind of work on those projects and those memoirs.
So what's your club?
Mujeres.
Women.
And that
Women.
is?
So it stands for Women Unite Together to Break Barriers and Stereotypes. Okay.
So when do you meet?
We meet every Thursday.
Is Mrs. Stutch still?
Yeah, she's the sponsor. Mhm.
When we talking about MLA, really nothing much has happened other than a project that IJAC's been working. To the next slide. Okay, thank you. Where we are working on 2 big projects for both the upperclassmen and for the lowerclassmen. They are working on community service projects that we worked on with IJAC throughout the school year. And the upper grademen are working really hard on fixing the reputation that alternative schools have and the reputation that MLA currently has of it as a negative feature. And we want to change that and possibly change the perspective of others, viewing it as a more positive school, a school that could help students with struggles with learning and struggles with disabilities, that it's just like the high school, but much smaller. And that is it of our presentation. Any questions that we have from anyone?
You have heard a lot
today.
Well, the poetry out loud just triggered in me our need to reach out to have the champion come be recognized, and maybe if they haven't had the state competition, to do a practice run with that. We've done that typically. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Hi, Rex.
Hi, good evening. I'm back again to ask your permission to purchase 2 buses. We're looking at a new wheelchair bus that seats 4 plus 12 other students. The number of students we have in the district in wheelchairs is growing, and we need to accommodate them. And with the limited bus drivers, we need to try and get them on the same bus. So we have one bus that has 2 wheelchairs, one bus has 3 wheelchairs. And this would be a 4 wheelchair. Our 3 wheelchair has a lot of miles and it's going to hang around for a little bit, but we need to replace that. The other one is a 35 passenger bus that will replace one of our preschool buses. Right now, we're running a 65 passenger. We don't need a 65 passenger on our preschool. We need to get our 35. And with both these, we're putting air conditioning in them so that we can look after the comfort of the kids and also use them during the summertime, doing some of the other activities that we have. So we're asking for your permission to buy the wheelchair bus from Thomas Bus Sales for $134,206, and then to stay local, the 35 passenger for $136,699, for a total of $270,905. We thought it was important to try and stay local with one of our buses. You can see the price difference on the wheelchair bus. So we recommend going with Thomas for that one.
Any questions?
Rex, I think it's always good that we can stay local. I know they're just a little bit more on the one bus. Another one, they're a lot higher. I believe they're under new ownership. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And hopefully, we would like to keep it all local if possible, but I appreciate the one bus.
Yeah, the thing about it is talking with them, I think once the supply demand issue gets taken over and the new company gets situated, those prices, talking with our rep, he thought those prices would start coming down. So we would like to, but for repairs and service, it's right out our back door, but we have to go with the recommendation of the price difference. There's quite a bit of cost difference for the wheelchair bus.
But we're keeping one local.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve the purchase of a wheelchair yellow diesel from Thomas Bus Sales in the amount of $134,206 and a 35 passenger yellow diesel from Hoagland Bus Sales in the amount of $136,699 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Lowry Hernandez, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Enjoy your buses, Rex.
So it's been the case in the past. We've brought before you just as an information and discussion item, the proposed calendar for the coming year. So we have a draft of that. This particular calendar very closely mirrors this year's calendar, which people thus far have been generally happy with, both in terms of the number of pre-service and in-service or professional development days. There may have been a little bit of juggling of when those were, a few of them were. The biggest question always is, do we have spring break or do we not? And overwhelmingly, the calendar committee wanted to retain a spring break just because they feel like at that time of year, especially after almost surviving the winter, the week-long break is needed. Thankfully, once again, the stars align with that break being at the same time as Marshtown Community College, which we've always made a priority, but it also aligns with the Regents universities as well, which hasn't always been the case when MCCs was scheduled. So that should accommodate both our students as it relates to dual credit, as well as with their parents, who oftentimes, if they do travel during that time, do it in conjunction with the Regents universities. So any questions that anybody has relative to the calendar?
The only question I have is, Memorial Day. Is there any way we can be done Memorial Day? Done.
It's very difficult with the state requirement of not being able to start till August 23rd. There are districts that do it, but I think oftentimes they don't have spring break. And the other thing is they may have adjusted their teacher contracts to the closer to the minimum hours that are required by the state, 1,080 hours. Our hours more closely correspond with our teacher contracts, and whereas I think it's very important that we try our best to get the equivalent of 10 professional development days in during the course of the year as close as we can, because research supports that quite a bit for the continued growth and development of teachers. And the model that we've implemented, whether it be through full day professional development or in the past as it related to early releases, lends itself to the continuum of learning throughout the year, not just learning over the course of a day and then not returning to it for, an extended period of time. Our current system does provide some flexibility as it relates to how we handle student days, in terms of, as in the past, we've been able to forgive some student makeup days due to the fact that we do exceed quite a bit what the state requires there. But the other end of that is that we generally make up the teacher days because they're contracted and paid for that period of time. So we have in the past, and we will this year too, use some creativity in terms of how we may make up some of those days. We've talked about creating a virtual PD day for teachers, adding a PD day potentially at the end of the year. But it's very difficult, even when the stars align to where we're close to that. It generally there's almost always some weather related, cancellations. And once we get to a certain point with student days, usually it's once we've had 3 or 4 days, that's about the time where we need to start adding the days at the end of the year, because there's no better use of the teacher's time than when they're here with kids and instructing kids. So it's just really tough to be done by Memorial Day, quite honestly. It was more frequent to be able to be accomplished back when we could start, earlier in August, finish the semester by winter break, which aligned with the community colleges. And then, of course, you then have a 2-week jump start on the second semester, right when you came back from break. Thus, usually you could end very close to Memorial, if not a little bit before, if you didn't have too many snow days. But once that once that law went into place, in an effort to preserve people's availability for the state fair and youth workers during the summer, for tourism purposes, it's just really tough.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, so we'll wind up, I believe, needing to have a public hearing on the calendar as well. So
Right, so we need, I assume we need a motion to set a public hearing for Monday, February 6th, 2023 at 5 o'clock for the 23-24 school year.
yeah.
Calendar.
Correct.
I just say so moved.
Okay.
Second.
McGinnis, Faltis, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 6-0.
The next item is a proposed new position for the district titled Marshtown Community School District Safety and Security Coordinator. Obviously, a lot of attention has been brought to this issue of school safety and security as a result of events that have continued to occur across the country, including this year. The governor obviously made a significant commitment last summer to use some of her available COVID funds to provide basically every district in the state of Iowa and every school building within those districts the opportunity to further improve their safety and security measures at the tune of about $50,000 per building. And part of our requirement in order to be eligible for that was to agree to have a thorough and vulnerability assessment done, which we had done back in early December. And I would imagine within the next month or two, we will receive the full report as far as recommendations. I will say that we had a lot of people engaged at the building and district level in all of those virtual meetings, as well as those walkthroughs, and the people that perform those assessments were generally very impressed with how much we have done and have in place, but there's always room for improvement. And so I know that there's going to be some recommendations that are going to require significant attention. So for example, I think one of the top requirements will be to implement a more formal visitor management system than what we have in the buildings, which is a pretty traditional system and checking in and out through the office and that sort of thing. So the person that would be in this position first and foremost could help lead us through, which I think will be maybe upwards of 2 years worth of work to get everything in place that will probably come through as a recommendation that we would prioritize. I think we'll be able to do even a better job annually in terms of training, whether it be with students or our employees, as to the emergency protocols, whether it be active shooter or other things. So I think that will be very good as well. That this person will be a direct liaison with both emergency management, Kim Alder at the county level, but also with our police and fire departments and EMTs as well. So I'm generally excited. It's not unusual for districts of our size or larger to have people in these positions. And I think we've built enough flexibility into the qualifications for the position that we can do this effectively and in a cost-effective way as well. So be happy to entertain any questions about anything that, was in the job description, which is pretty thorough, I think, covers a lot of bases. But I think the goal for us will be to take where I think we're at, which is a very good place as it relates to safety and security, and take it to a great place, because I think you need to be in that place in order to do everything within your power to ensure the safety of everyone here in a challenging world.
Are there questions?
So I apologize. This is going to be painful for both of us.
Hey,
But
go ahead. Tell us who you are and all that jazz first.
my name is Tina Telford. My daughter is Tariah Telford Honeymuller. She's a 7th grader at Miller. And it has come to our attention within the past couple of days that there is a website that children are posting to on Instagram that details their fights that they are doing for likes on the website. We've spoken with Mr. Edgington, and he says that he cannot guarantee Tariah's safety at school.
Who have you spoken to?
I believe it's Mr. Edgington. Please forgive me. It was 2 months ago we
don't have a Mr. Edgington here.
sorry, my husband is on his way, however, because he was going to talk because he can. So I apologize, but the moment came up. So what are we doing in the meantime for this person? I mean, if somebody has an Instagram account, I don't. That's why I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, what I would recommend is that you either contact me directly or the principal of your children. And
She has several times, and they told her that it's her fault.
well,
You want to see it? Do you want to see the person that grabbed her by the hair and dragged her and pushed her on the ground? Because it's visible for everyone to see online.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is the appropriate venue in
Right.
order to share
This
this
is-
concern. That's what I'm trying to say, that we can either set up a meeting with me, the superintendent of the school district, or have a phone conversation so I can find out the information that you're.
Just realized where that name came from, so I apologize. But, okay, that's fine, but I did not send her to school today because I don't know what to do.
Yeah, if you're concerned and you're not getting accomplished what you need to through the building administration, then you need to come to the district administration, which would be me.
Okay, well, then I will wait until the end to find out because, you can approve this person, but when will they start?
Yeah, if you can put your contact information on.
Yeah,
the
fill
pink
out
sheet,
that-
I'll be happy to reach back out to you tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep. But that kind of reminds me as well that in addition to working very closely with the building administration on matters of safety and security, this person will be a significantly important conduit with our technology department as technology becomes much more vibrant as it relates to safety and security with internal and external cameras, with keyless door entry systems. Buildings and grounds, I'll be working very closely with them on matters of infrastructure improvements, tornado fire systems, as well as we also had a comprehensive audit done by our liability insurance carrier EMC, which had a lot of recommendations, short-term as well as long-term, in terms of making improvements there too. So this person will be laser focused on keeping it a priority, get all of those things done as effectively and efficiently as possible in all those arenas.
This actually, my brother is a safety engineer and he came from the insurance industry and then finished his career at Baltimore County Schools. And your job description does sound good, but we do need to look at the cybersecurity and the bullying, because that's becoming more of an issue, I think, nationwide, not just at our school. And cell phones are a big part of that.
Did you, Corinne, you look like you had something.
I was gonna say I think it's great to have. I'm excited about this because we need it. But just a question, not that I'm against it, but is this something that other districts have to?
Yeah, generally districts of our size and larger
Okay.
would have a position like this, and sometimes they have other positions that might be more building based. It would be maybe just security officers of a certain kind. This person would be more global over the entire district as it relates to that. Work closely, obviously, with our police liaison as well. That's at the high school and hopefully eventually again at middle and Lenahan too. So.
And I think we've done a great job with our elementary level and even with Lenahan as far as the security going into the schools. I do see the high school maybe needing probably something there as far as cameras or buzzer or something. I don't know. There's so many doors there. I know that people can come in, but just the visitor entrances.
Yeah, there's identified work that we need to do both at Miller and the high school and trying to figure out how to effectively do that. The challenge at both of those buildings is just the sheer number of doors that are there. But, as it relates particularly to visitor management, both of those buildings have for some time been identified as areas that we need to figure out something differently in terms of processing.
Yeah. That's great.
Is there a motion to approve the new position MCSD Safety and Security Coordinator as presented?
So moved.
Second.
McGinnis, Faltus, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Brian, you coming back up? All right,
All right. Thanks for having me again. Tonight, we're hoping to get approved and recommend that the plans, specifications, the contract, and the estimated total cost for the for a video board with the new stadium project. I can say that we hope Kevin reiterated today at our meeting that it is out for bid. We expect multiple bids, and price would be probably north of $200,000, more of a in the $250,000 range for the video board. So the timeline of this, we would hope that the bids are due by January 24th, and then the February 6th school board meeting to award or reject that bid for the scoreboard. I did present to the finance committee last week on ways to generate revenue. So first of all, through the stadium project, we originally had about a $50,000 scoreboard budgeted for it. Obviously, since then, video boards have become a lot more active in any stadium that you're at, whether it's a high school or any major sporting event. And we think that if we don't do a video board, we would probably regret that later versus just a basic scoreboard. And the reason we were asking for this now is because of the lead time for the scoreboard. It can take several months for it to get here, as we're finding out with the pool video board right now, which should get here this week actually, but we ordered it back over the summer. So you can see that we're kind of in a time crunch to hopefully get the video board here by the fall. With that said, obviously it's a very expensive project, and we want to come up with ways that we could help offset this cost. So we were approved by the Bobcat Booster Club they pledged $25,000 donation towards this project to help with that. And I feel like since I've been here, we haven't really quite maximized the advertising as much as we could. So right now we advertise just in the roundhouse and the stadium through a company called Varsity Group, which is based out of Des Moines. It's nice in the sense that they kind of do all the work, solicit the companies, and they just project it to a video board. But the downside of it is the district, we don't get all the profits for it. They get their cut as well. So they get about half of what we would make. So we're hoping to kind of expand that hopefully this summer to generate revenue and get sponsors for the video board, as well as all the scoreboards, whether it be the roundhouse, the new gym, baseball, softball, video board in the pool, and as well as even expanding that to our live streaming to the Bobcat News Network, as well as a social media sponsor as well. If you go to the next slide, Amy. And again. Thanks. So yeah, obviously this is just kind of a sample advertising package we put together. Nothing set in stone yet in terms of prices or anything like that, but it's just kind of a general plan of what we would look to do with this to help recoup the funds for the video board. And then from there, we would, after we pay the video board back, we would have all that revenue going forward go to the athletic department, the athletic fund or activity fund. And then and even the Booster Club has asked if they could take over the advertising, and they would do and again, at the end of the day, the revenue still goes back to support our student athletes and coaches and activities. If you go to the next slide, Amy. So there's different packages we came up with, and there's, the hometown hero, which would be all scoreboards, superstar, which would just be the football track, and the outdoor stadium, or if someone just wanted to do the roundhouse or the baseball, softball, or just the video board in the pool. So if you go to the next slide, Amy. So that's a sample up in the left of what the one sample of what the video board would look like at the stadium. You can see there's spots below it to advertise and above it. And there's also ways you could do commercials, things like that on the video board. I mean, you can do anything, basically anything on that video board. The sky's the limit in terms of, you know, just enhancing the game day experience of, you know, hype videos, things like that, or graphics. But again, and this is probably down the line, but we'd love to see students involved in it as well. I think some of the best projects that, you know, we've talked to at the scoreboard vendors are student-led projects where the students are up there running the board, or maybe that's a work-based learning type class that they're taking. Some might ask, and Dr. Schutte asked this question too, you know, how are you going to advertise in the roundhouse since we don't have a video board? Well, we would obviously just put more permanent signage under the video board, similar to what we used to have with baseball, softball as well. You go to the next slide, Amy. And again, just another sample package. Go to the next one, Amy. And what would be in the roundhouse, just again, permanent signage below the scoreboards. And again, Amy, thank you. Baseball, softball. We used to have advertisements up there when I first came here, and several of them blew away during derecho. And I kind of researched it more. I'm like, because some of the companies didn't even exist anymore. A bunch of them expired back in 2012 or something like that anyway. So again, didn't think we're quite maximizing that. So we'd like to revamp that on the baseball, softball, which is, it's a great place to advertise because you got the road right there too. You could do two-way advertisements. So anyone that drives by that road, Olive Street, then you know, it'd be a pretty prime spot to advertise. And of course, the video board, which will be here this week. I'll probably spend a lot of time in the pool playing around with that. I'm really excited. But there are obviously lots of opportunities to advertise in that bit board as well. Of course, the Bobcat News Network, you can see we've had over 78,000 views on that channel since we started it. And we don't do as much live streaming on it anymore, just because, you know, the radio stations here have been so great lately of revamping that, KFJB and KDAO, but we still live stream a lot of stuff through our huddle camera in the roundhouse, as well as our huddle camera at the stadium. It's really easy to do. You just add a graphic or a ticker at the bottom, and it's again pretty easy. All I have to do is go up there and hit a button and it starts. You can also control it from my phone. Next slide, please, Amy. And again, social media sponsor. My assistant Stacy, she does a lot of graphics. I have access to it too, and you can create graphics within a few minutes. And there's several schools that do this. They have, you know, company logos that just sponsor a social media post. We have a huge following on Facebook as well as Twitter. Of course, there's the packages. So we talked about the price. You know, it could be anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 per year. Reached out to several schools. One school in our conference, Tomwood, they sell ads for about $3,000 on their video board, and that's just for their video board. It's not nowhere else. So some companies might say, hey, that's all you're charging. Some might be, whoa, I can't do that. I might do more of a lesser package, but again, that's something we're still researching right now as well. Next slide, please, Amy. And again, there's just, if we were able to secure 6 Hometown Hero sponsors, we would be able to recoup the funds from the board within just a few years. And then again, after that, it'd be a good opportunity for to generate revenue for the athletic fund, the activity department. And of course, I'd entertain any questions, or Dr. Schutte, if I missed anything you'd want to add.
Well, I think the important thing was the emphasis that we unfortunately had to pull this out of the larger project in order to meet timelines for bidding that would put us in a position due to the lead times and actually receiving the boards. And as Ryan mentioned, we've already experienced significant delay with the video board in the swimming pool. So we pulled that out separate ahead of the rest of the project, which it's a little bit awkward not knowing what the regular project, the larger project's gonna come in at, but we felt that if we were going to do what we believe we should do, which is move in the direction of a digital board, that we had a plan for how we would offset the increased costs beyond what we had budgeted originally. So I'm very confident that Ryan can meet that expectation as far as the advertising. I like the idea of us owning the selling of the advertising versus, you know, giving someone else half of the profits of that. And as Ryan said, once they would take care of that differential in cost, then the future revenues could go straight into the activities department, which I think will be a nice boost for that, for what they can do for kids.
I guess the question I have is if it's gonna take almost 9 years to recoup your revenue, how long do these boards last?
The video boards, I mean, I guess I'm not sure on how, I mean, I think they last as long as you take good care of it. I don't think anyone's replaced a video board within 10, 15 years at the longest. So
Might be something worth looking into
sure.
for making this kind of a commitment.
I think the goal will be to recoup whatever the differential will be within a 3-year period, actually.
I would commend Ryan, you know, he did a great job at our finance meeting and really studied the packages out there of what other schools charge. And I was very impressed with, I really think we could have a 3-4 year payback. And then that extra money is going to go back into the athletic program. And that's kind of why I like the digital idea. And the second thing I liked about it, which you talked a little bit about, was the kids, the marketing class.
I like that idea.
And so, you know, at first, but I think for the value of the taxpayer, they're going to recoup this and then some, absolutely. And like I said, Ryan has already started a great plan sitting in on that meeting. So
Thank you.
I think these numbers are conservative, by the way,
Sure.
very conservative.
I also want to say what you said about we might regret later if we
We
don't.
don't really, yes.
Because, I mean, seeing other schools and their scoreboards and how great it looks and the advertising that they do, they really put a good use to these scoreboards with the screen. I mean, you can see it, and I think it would be not only an asset to our schools to have for our visitors, but also our local businesses.
The course that I asked Jackie to put before you tonight that didn't quite make it is actually having students be able to troubleshoot these athletic systems and then create media production for themselves of actually creating the video, put on the boards. I selfishly want to help with that. So
All right.
there's already some play that will.
Yeah, and I know there's some schools that have almost a full-time class dedicated to video board. I know previous district I was at, the Crosstown School, Carol had a nice class to that people signed up and created all the content, and it was very well run. And I know some of the scoreboard packages or scoreboard companies also actually provide they provide work and that's the word I'm looking for. Curriculum. Thank you. Drew a blank there. They provide curriculum for the students for the projects.
So you could conceivably have the students out selling the advertisement, designing the ads, posting the ads. So there's a lot you could do with it.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, if you haven't, you should take the opportunity to look at the live streaming that KFJB has been doing, the Bobcat boys and girls basketball and football earlier this year. It's a first-rate live stream, number one, so it's really nice to watch when you can't be at the game. But the thing I really like are the short commercials using our student athletes, introducing themselves. And I mean, it's just a real quick thing. absolutely something that our own kids could do and have some fun with, as it relates to these digital boards. So I think there's some great potential for future learning and then some opportunities to work and maybe make a little money too with us in terms of running these things.
Well, this evening, we need to approve the plan specifications, form a contract, and estimated total costs for the high school video scoreboard project. Or motion to that effect.
Move for approval.
Second.
Hernandez, Wall, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. That motion carries 5-0. And then we'll find out in February how much this is all going to cost us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Jan, you had initial review policies this evening.
Yes, the first one was 502.12 violence, and we didn't make any changes in the policy. It does say if a student is involved in criminal offenses, law enforcement agencies will be contacted. Students can be taken to the police station. But no changes were made in the policy. 502.13 student name changes. There were no changes made in the policy. And it's a pretty standard practice if a student asks to be called by a nickname or whatever, teachers are expected to comply unless there's some good reason not to. Student preferred name or gender change application. Again, there were no changes to that. The student should be called by the preferred name unless there's a particular reason not to. The gender change application or name change application can be formalized on a piece of paper, and that's kept on file and parents have access to those files. 503.1 student conduct. There was a small change adding will to page 3. So I think we need to go to first reading to amend. That's a very complete policy. So it takes a little time to read. 503.1 R1 disciplinary procedures and or penalties. We are adding long-term suspension as an option. And so it needs to go to the first reading to amend. And 503 R2 student suspension, adding long-term suspension as an option, updating legal and cross references. So it needs to go to first reading to amend.
Are there any questions about any of those? Okay, then 502.12, 502.13, and 502.13E1 will be marked as reviewed. The remaining policies, Jan's remaining policies will come back next week for a first, not next week, next meeting for a first reading. Thanks, Jan. And then you're going to cover the next two, Dr. Schutte.
Yeah, I'll ask Amy just to briefly speak to it, but we've got a couple policies dealing with student directory information, 506.2. And then 506.2 R1, use of directory information. And she's worked with our attorneys to further refine what we have there.
Basically, when talking to the attorneys about what we could share as far as student information and still comply to FERPA, they gave me what is allowable. They gave me the verbiage for what is allowable. And in our previous policy, we had chosen to be more narrow with what we would allow. And the lawyers basically just said it's better to allow more. And then if we choose not to share, that's fine. So we decided especially to include electronic email address and to not differentiate between or among the different student levels. Just say all students, these are the things that we can share. Doesn't mean that we do, but we definitely have reason like to share with third-party vendors like ST Math, Lexia, those sorts of the amplify the student email address. So we just wanted to make sure that our policy was allowing us to do that. since it is allowable under FERPA.
Well, and these email addresses are the ones that students use at school. They're not
Yes.
right. And I'm working with about 6 different platforms now, and it's much, much, much easier to work with these educational platforms if you can use the student email address. Because many of the textbook companies are using those to make sure that each student gets access to one copy of the book.
Yes. Yep.
Any other questions or comments for Amy? Those two policy 5062 and 5062 R1 will come back the next meeting for a first reading to amend. Adam?
Good evening. So the main thing I wanted to share tonight was just the latest on our district website and the timeline there. So Juicebox, their developers are coding the website. They are a good ways into that process. Talking to Carl, our project manager today, they believe right now launch can be anticipated in about 3 weeks, which is slightly later than what we had hoped. And I'm disappointed that it doesn't look like we'll be able to get it done this month. That was a big goal of mine. So I just, on my end, I am just making sure every bit of content that we want to migrate over is ready in the time we have until migration toward the end of the development stage. I feel very confident about having everything ready to go before we get to that point. So right now we can't migrate anything over until the back end development is at a certain point, and they're not there yet, is my understanding from Juicebox's side. So I will continue to keep you all up to date and continue pushing to make sure we stay as close to the timeline as we possibly can. Otherwise, just wanted to remind everyone we have our second Parent Wellness series webinar tomorrow evening, beginning at 5 p.m. This one is fully virtual, and it is going to tackle emotional regulation, identifying what's wrong. It's part 1 of 2 parts in that section of the series. So we hope parents can join us, and they can check their remind messages and emails that we've sent, as well as our Bobcat newsletter for information on how to register for that. So
Can you give us the date and time on that? Again?
yes,
I know you
yeah.
have-
So it's tomorrow, January 18th, from 5 to 6 p.m.
That's at the high school, correct?
No, it's fully virtual. This
This
for
one's
this
virtual.
one, right?
Thankfully, because the snow might.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Goodness.
So did those notices go out this week then to the parents?
So I know for the remind message, let's see, we're sending a reminder tonight. I believe that would have been early last week, but I'd have to look and see when that
So
latest
something
reminder.
went out last week and then you're reminding tonight.
Yes, and we've sent out regular reminders via the Bobcat newsletter every week since our previous one, and we reminded folks immediately after that first webinar of this upcoming one on January 18th.
Yeah, I would say I've seen several reminders about this one.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
So.
Yep. So hopefully we get another good crowd.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
All right. Thank you.
Looking at reminders, Bonnie's got policies to review for our next meeting. There's a whole bunch of committee meetings and other meetings happening, so pay attention to when your committees are meeting. Which brings us to committee reports. The Equity Committee met before Christmas. Karina, are you on that? I know Bonnie is. Are you on that, Karina?
I am in that. What are we talking
I'm
about?
gonna really challenge your memory because it's been over a month, but what happened?
What was it?
Equity.
Did we have it?
Yeah, I don't think you were there.
Okay, I was gonna say, I'm like.
Not a failure of memory.
No wonder.
I really should have messed with her and been like, you were a great
SIAC. It was part
participant.
of SIAC. Okay, it was SIAC. It was not.
Yeah, so we had a really productive conversation. I felt we looked at the attendant or the enrollment data from last year. So looking at the distribution of identities that we track, that we monitor in terms of students who were enrolled in which courses, and we compared that to last year's data. And we saw a lot of great improvements. And when I say improvements, that means the distribution of the students in the courses more closely reflects the actual overall distribution of students. So for example, one of the improvements was, oh, now I might be conflating science and math, but I think it was in math, we had a more even distribution of gender than when we compared last year at the higher level of math classes. So things like that we looked at, or the Latinx population was greater in certain classes that more accurately reflected our student population. So there were a lot of great strides that we were seeing in the data. And then we also looked at some staff data. And then finally, we really looked at our goals for the year. And we had several goals that we created last year, and we decided to really focus on two. One of them being a purposeful newsletter that we would like to get out to the community, and the other being creating affinity groups for staff. And Principal Wyant and I are working on that. So we had a really great conversation. Thanks.
Thanks. Zach, anything you want to say about the finance committee?
The biggest thing we covered, a couple things, was a stadium project with scoreboard with Ryan. A couple other things we talked about was kind of the budget deadlines coming up. And I think Randy, we kind of suggested, and Randy put together an outside company come in and talk about the 5-year forecasting.
Yeah, we'll be looking at doing a work session sometime in February, late February, early March, just on our financial forecasting models.
And I think that covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I think there was, as part of the discussion about the stadium project, we had, for a long time, we were throwing out the number of $5.9 million of available revenue from the HVAC projects. And it's actually 6.4 million. And Randy has clarified that. Right now, the projected cost, preliminary projected cost is right under $6 million. So still have some work to do to further refine the project, as we heard today in our facilities meeting. So we're hoping that number stays down there, and that, as Zach said about the scoreboard, that these numbers, similar to the HVAC project, are somewhat conservative, so that we have really favorable bids. If we did at this point, we could probably take on all the alternates. But we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed. And I think the actual stadium bids go out in late February, early March, and then they would be due right around the end of March. So it's a pretty tight timeline. If we award the bids, then construction probably start as early as April 10th, I would think, with deconstruction of the facility in order to reconstruct it. So, but we'll keep you up to date. There's a lot happening week to week with that project right now.
What have we done this evening to improve education for the students in Marshalltown?
I think the talk on Science Bound was helpful, and I'm glad the community got to hear about how that program operates and how people can apply for it and what it does.
I like the water boy presentation.
Oh, it's cool.
It's always nice to hear from the students, and it didn't overcome any teachers talking. I mean, she was there for moral support, she said, and that was neat that it was student led, the whole presentation.
They were well prepared.
They were.
We've had a long history of success with that program, and particularly as it relates to competing at the state level. So hopefully those kids will have success when they go out there to Ames.
Maybe we'll see them again when they get older.
And I actually liked Abraham's idea of selling the alternative school differently with a more positive. Yeah. Reputation. Exactly.
The visit we were on a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I was very impressed. First time being at the MLA Center, and I didn't know what to expect, and I could see myself in high school going there. Just the, work at your pace and have classes designed around you, what you need, and work at your pace, and I really enjoyed it.
And the classroom settings were very
Yes,
nice.
very yes.
Yeah.
Well decorated and very homey looking. Yeah.
And it seemed like they're relating to the kids, and which is very good.
Yeah.
So.
As a student and a teacher, we create a relationship and a friendship bond outside of the teacher perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I think the safety and security coordinator position is a huge step in the right direction for protecting our students, and will probably lead to more in the district. But good first step.
yeah, I can see it expanding.
Okay, well, that's the end of the public portion of the meeting, folks. So thanks for coming. We'll take about 5 minutes and then we'll go into a couple of closed sessions. So, thank you.
I'm gonna go.
You get tired.